to the Kingsland Homestead, home of the Queens Historical Society. I'm Byron Saunders, Executive Director here at the Queens Historical Society. Welcome to our current exhibit of Movie Palaces on Queens. Won't you come right this way for your ticket, please?
Yes. Oh, this is so interesting.
Good afternoon, Councilwoman Julia Harrison. Welcome.
My pleasure. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Welcome to our current exhibit of Movie Palaces on Queens.
Very interesting.
Indeed. Won't you come in and sign in, please? You know Jerry Rotendi, our curator, right?
Jerry, it feels like an old friend.
Oh, good. Right here's way. Sign our guest book, please.
The Queens Historical Society proudly presents the Movie Palaces of Queens. Over the years, thousands upon thousands of people came to these temples of fantasy. Dreamers, lovers, the joyful and the downtrodden. Some scraped nickels together for the price of admission, while others arrived bedecked with furs and jewels. Many of them laughed at what they saw on stage. A few discreetly wept. Still others gazed about and merely passed the time. Yet together, they all became an audience, sharing in their amazement that wonder world which surrounded them, and after the shows let out, none of them would ever be the same. Somehow, each had been transformed. Although the borough of Queens would boast its share of spacious, well-appointed vaudeville movie theaters, none of these could match the glittering opulence of the three truly majestic picture palaces: the Valencia in Jamaica, the Triboro in Astoria, and the RKO Keiths in Flushing. Often referred to as a junior wonder theater, the Triboro is nonetheless staggering in its architectural riches and stature. Designed by the world-renowned theater architect Thomas Lamb, it opened on February 21st, 1931, amidst great hoopla and parades. From the moment you step into the regal foyer, festooned with crystal and bronze chandeliers, you are transported to another world. Ascending the grand staircase, you pass beneath a vaulted canopy of flowing and intricate patterns of richly embroidered color, past statues in niches, urns, velvet and damask draperies, boldly textured walls, filigree balustrades, and sinuous columns. Finally, sitting back in your soft plush seat under a twilit sky, the walls of the auditorium are dripping with ornament. One could easily dream away the hours in a splendid Mediterranean garden. This dream, unfortunately, was to end abruptly one day in 1974, and languorous reverie would soon turn into nightmare. Despite the fact that over 8,000 people signed petitions to landmark the Triboro Theater, according to Robert J. Clayton of the Ad Hoc Committee to Save the Triboro, the Board of Estimate would not support landmark status. So the beautiful, starlit ceiling came tumbling down with some help from the wrecking crew. The people of Astoria were told at the time, you still have the Flushing Keith's Theater. This was little consolation to the thousands who passed many wondrous hours in this splendid playhouse, and in the end, they were left with nothing but emptiness. The monumental Triboro Theater, built to last forever, pride of the Loew's vaudeville circuit, was replaced by nondescript row housing, a mockery to its former glory. It survives today only in our memories and photos such as you have seen. Is this progress or a legacy of shame?
As a youngster growing up in the post-World War II period in Corona, people said, well, where are we going for an evening to see a movie? Well, the choice was Flushing, because you had access over the Flushing River Bridge. And all you had to do is get in your car, take the Q66 bus down Northern Boulevard, take the Q48 bus down from Ditmars Boulevard near my home, over Roosevelt Avenue's bridge into Flushing, and you were right there at the Keith to see a movie. Of course, there are other theaters in other communities in Queens, but they were of no comparison to the Keith. They were much smaller. They were basically neighborhood theaters. They were the type of theater that when you went there, you didn't have the same feeling of awe when you walked into the grand lobby of the Keith, when you went through the Spanish Hacienda, you passed the majestic fountain, and also the carved marble stairwells, going up to the Loew seats, going up to the ornate candy counter with the various selections of candies and popcorn that you could take into the theater with you. It was not the same feeling. As I said, your neighborhood theater was in walking distance. You could walk there, but the choice of motion pictures were not first run. They were second or third run. The screen was much smaller. The interior wasn't as lovely. The sight lines weren't as good. So with the Keith, you had a choice of excellent seating, an unbroken sight line, and also, as I said before, to see a first-run motion picture, the same type that you could go to Manhattan, naturally have to spend money for parking, tolls, gasoline, also which would include a dinner in a midtown restaurant, and then the journey back to Flushing, and you had it right here.
One of the 5 Loew's Wonder Theaters built in the metropolitan area, the Valencia, was called the most beautiful showcase on Long Island. In fact, the Long Island Daily Press reported that it is in a class by itself. Nowhere is there a playhouse approaching it in splendor. Located on Jamaica Avenue, it opened on Saturday, January 12, 1929, 62 years to the day before the opening of our exhibit. So in a way, we dedicate this exhibition as a birthday present to our borough's finest theater. In contrast to the Loew's Triboro, the Valencia still stands today as a model of preservation. Architect John Eberson, who built the Valencia, developed the atmospheric-style theater. The Moorish splendor of the ornately columned entry foyer, complete with fountain, beckons you into a cavernous auditorium right out of the Arabian Nights. Balconettes with orange trees, pinnacled parapets, spires ascending to a twilight sky, grand staircases laced with hand-wrought iron, tapestries, statuary set in spaces festering with carbuncled ornamentation, beauty so intoxicating it is almost too much to bear. This all but overworked, overplayed, overpowering wonder, truly one of the 7 wonders of the world, and right here in Queens, is self-evident it stands alone. It must stand forever. Viva Valencia.
When you went into an old movie theater, and some of them are still around, and when you go into them, there is a buildup of expectations of that you're going to enter another world, because there's some transition from the outside world into whatever world the movie's going to take you into. When you go into a new movie theater, it's just like going on a corridor to an airplane, and it doesn't have any emotional connotations.
Ruby velvet, carpeted aisles.
Movies have an enormous influence on our expectations of life. in fact, I wrote a musical called Life is Not Like the Movies, and that comes from the idea that we have certain expectations of romance that come from the old movies, mainly, I think, that we've seen. If we're too young to have seen them in person, we've seen them on television, but we have expectations in our lives that life will turn out like a romantic movie, that the men will be heroes, the women will all be beautiful, and everything turns out all right.
Movie palaces were glowing, glowing a million nights.
My obsession with movies may have something to do with the fact that my mother went into labor with me in the Loew Kings in Brooklyn, and didn't want to leave because she wanted to see the end of the movie, and I think that influenced me for the rest of my life.
In the dark back rows, Moorish balconies and Renaissance doors.
In these times of the days of the Keith were actually a training and a proving ground for young, talented professionals like Milton Berle, Bob Hope, Jack Benny. Youngsters coming up today don't have that type of opportunity. The facilities are not there any longer to actually break in properly into the performing arts. I speak from experience. My late parents were in the entertainment industry during its golden age of the 1930s and 40s. My late father was a swing-era jazz musician and played theaters similar to the Keith, where they had actually a named swing band that was popular from its recordings. They also provided a singer, a vocal group. Sometimes the band had two singers, a boy singer and a girl singer, like Jimmy Dorsey. It also provided what they called a tap dance act. There was either a duo, a trio, or a quartet, and a comedy team, plus the first run Hollywood motion picture, which is generally a double feature, along with the newsreel, along with the cartoon, along with the coming attractions, all this during the golden age for sometimes less than $1 admission. And you had a chance to see performing artists on stage 4 to 5 times a day, from 1 p.m. up to 10 p.m. at night, which was the last show. So this is what the Keith is. Significantly, basically for entertainment, for culture, and also for a source of revenue for the area of Flushing, Queens, as a business entity.
We now come to what has been referred to as a thorny issue. For nearly a decade, the RKO Keith's Flushing Theater has been the scene of much controversy. Sitting like a scuttled vessel at the end of Main Street on Northern Boulevard, shrouded in real-life mystery that would rival any Sherlock Holmes film that may have flickered on its screen, we're witness to the shame of an entire borough. The Keith's has become a city-wide embarrassment. Yet things were not always this way. In a kinder time, when gentlemen wore hats and ladies wore gloves, they attended the opening of this fine theater on Christmas Day in 1928. The Keith's opened as the Keith Albee Vaudeville Theater. Thomas Lamb was the architect, and it was built under the personal supervision of Mr. Albee himself. The house seated about 2,900, and it is said to have the finest acoustics and sight lines of any theater in the country. Comedian Jack Benny emceed opening night. Many top vaudeville headliners played this splendid theater over the years. Many are just memories now, but some are, fortunately, still with us. Bob Hope, Milton Berle, and Roy Rogers remember playing on its stage. They signed petitions to save the Keiths in 1987. Mr. Hope, a real trooper and a great American, wrote the following in a letter. I did play the Flushing Theater for Keith Albee, and I think it's a shame that they would let an auditorium like that be torn down. It's a beautiful theater. I don't know why they would make everything a landmark status but the auditorium. If you want me to call your congressman or do anything about it, I will be happy to do it, because you won't find theaters like that today. Regards, Bob Hope.
What is so significant about the RKO Keith? Why should it be saved? It's nothing but a big hulk sitting there. It's not being utilized for any meaningful purpose. And my answer to that is The Keith was the mecca for downtown Flushing and for entertainment, for family entertainment. When the husband took the wife out for an evening, it was like going to Midtown Manhattan, because it was a source of family entertainment. You had a choice of a most ornate theater designed by Thomas Lamb, a movie palace.
Indeed, you don't find theaters like this today. Suspended from the lobby ceiling, a golden balcony with heraldic crests encircles the perimeter. Electric torches jutting from the walls frame the rich, chocolate-toned wood ticket booth, resplendent with gilded finials and medallions. This is but a mere appetizer before one's eyes feast upon the sumptuous grand foyer. Behold, the tinkling musical sounds of a colorful tiered central fountain topped with a glistening white marble Cupid-like statuette, large goldfish gracefully swimming about in its pool, and the curving twin staircases which lead you up to the mezzanine promenade frame this vista in stately symmetry. Spiral columns, gilded balconies, and verandas surround the spacious oval foyer. The ornate bronze railings, striped canopies, and intricately molded plasterwork form a backdrop for the atmospheric evening sky ceiling, truly a rarity. The mezzanine features iron and bronze wall sconces and a magnificent coffered ceiling, furnished with treasures of the decorator's art. The auditorium of this wondrous theater is revealed in a grand sweep that oohs and ahs your breath away. Beneath the twilight sky once again, you sit as if in a great outdoor courtyard. Drifting clouds and twinkling stars complete the fantastic vision. We're speaking with Frank Cronican, one of the founders of the Theater Historical Society and model builder par excellence, sitting in a scale miniature of the Avalon Theater in Chicago, which took him 3 years of intensive work to build. The actual preliminary preparation prior to this undertaking involved 30 years of research and commitment.
Now, Keith in Flushing has been mauled. It has been, there are certain words I can't use. It's in bad condition. But believe me, it can be brought back. It is possible, and it can be done. It has been proven in too many places around this country. A rebirth of something that is true American, the movie palace. And those that are growing up know nothing of the grandeur, the splendor, the exotic experience of seeing a show in one of these. As I sit here in this theater of my own, I hope that it can be done. This particular model here, like the original, you see, when these theaters were built, they were one of a kind. John Eberson, who designed the Avalon, was the creator of this type of theater. It's called the Atmospheric Theater, and there were a couple in New York. In fact, the Paradise in the Bronx was one of John Eberson's theater. The Valencia over in Queens. In fact, they were two of what Loew's called the Wonder Theaters. There were 5 of them altogether. Yes, there are some around the country that are still in existence. In fact, those where they have been saved, the politicians come out and say, oh, the neighborhood is no good. First of all, these theaters were built in quality neighborhoods. The neighborhoods have been allowed to deteriorate. They were built to last. They were built of the finest materials available. If there was metal work, it had to be bronze, or some cases they used brass. Nothing cheap. Where one of these theaters has been standing in a neighborhood that has sort of deteriorated, The opposite has come true of what the politicians believe in more cases than one. Theaters have been reestablished. They've been turned into performing arts centers. In these poor neighborhoods, it is shocking and a beautiful thing to see how the entire neighborhood has come back to life around these theaters. The Detroit Fox has been brought back. They're doing a whale of a business. It's overwhelmingly successful. This is in Detroit, where have you seen reports on the news of what has been happening in Detroit? The same is in St. Louis, the St. Louis Fox, which is the twin of the one in Detroit, a 5,000-seat theater. They've come back. They are doing a whale of business. The Ohio Theater in Columbus, right across the lawn from the state capitol, beautiful position, was saved 10 minutes before the Wreckers Ball was to go through the theater. Today, the Ohio Theater in Columbus, Ohio, in my estimation, sits as America's most beautiful theater. It has been completely refurbished. Incidentally, it has been said that the Ohio was Thomas Lamb, the architect's favorite theater. Whether it was, I don't know. It is absolutely magnificent. That theater, which was saved 10 minutes from the Wreckers Ball, today is booked up solid for the next 5 years. The public is hungry for some kind of a quality entertainment. These theaters are the answer. To walk into one like the Valencia or the Paradise in the Bronx, if you walked in for the matinee, I will try and explain what it was like. You would walk on carpets that felt this thick. You would see beautiful decorations, statuary, not junk, not junk from the corner drugstore, quality stuff, beautiful marble sculptures, oil paintings, especially woven tapestries, furniture sitting in the lobbies, all hand carved, purchased from estates, palaces, castles over in Europe and brought over here to decorate our movie palaces. And you would walk into the auditorium, in many cases, the big Wurlitzer organ would be playing. It took you out of your everyday world and put you in another world, and this is what they were supposed to do. Take the everyday man and woman off the street from their humdrum lives and let them be a king or queen for a few hours. And surprisingly, it had that effect. I look forward to the day when the marquee of Keith's Flushing lights up once again. The group that has been fighting to save it, they've stuck to their guns. I believe they are 100% right in what they are doing. The theater is in bad condition for what has been done to it, not of what happened over the time, over the ages. It could be brought back. It'll take a lot of time, it'll cost, but the end result will be worth it, because you will have a performing arts center situated in a location like no other theater in this country that has been refurbished. It is in a position perfect to draw from Manhattan, from the island, from the North Shore, from the South Shore, and even New Jersey. The right people with the know-how running it, they will have something that no other city in this country has, a performing arts center that is perfect. And that sits there waiting for restoration. And I wish the crew working for it all the luck in the world. My hat's off to them for what they've done so far. I believe they've been on the right track, and I hope I live to see the day when the marquee lights up once again. I'm long-winded. Once you get me started.
It was a hit show from the first day we opened. As New York City Councilwoman Harrison stated in a proclamation presented to the Society, be it resolved that the Council of the City of New York honors the Queens Historical Society and declares this exhibition open for the enjoyment of all the people. Signed, Julia Harrison, Council Member. In closing, many wonderful people have passed through this exhibit. Many shared with us touching moments as they relived their movie palace dreams. Some expressed sadness, realizing that the show must finally come to an end. In its last week, a visitor asked, "Where will everything go when it's over?" In reply, the artifacts returned to their various archives for safe keeping. What remains, the spirit of the show, will go on forever in our hearts and become fond memories.